All right, so hey, what's going on, everybody? This is John and Dillon. Dillon, say hello.
Hi.
This is we're with Gamers Effect, and this is the Cause and Effect. We're a new website. This is our first podcast, basically, and our main goal is to bring a lot of gaming news, media news, really anything possible that's exciting to talk about. Maybe not sports, but yeah, our main goal is to, we've always wanted to do something that has to do with games, and we've always wanted to do a podcast and such. So we found that right now is probably the best time to do it because technology and the internet is everything. Everything kicks off fast. So tonight we're just kind of doing a test run. It's not going to be as long as we normally will be having these podcasts. We might run an hour normally, but we're going to do a little bit of a 30-minute post or a 30-minute podcast tonight and just talk about a couple things. We know that E3 is going on right now, and everyone probably wants to watch that. But so, anyways, actually, maybe we should give a quick, really, really short introduction about ourselves right before we go into this. Dylan, you could start if you want.
Sure. As of right now, I'm a college student here in Illinois. I originally attended Northern Illinois University studying mechanical engineering. I decided after a year I was done with that and went to a junior college out by me. And now I'm here at Lewis University filling my last 3 semesters. I started gaming when I was probably 8 or 9, maybe 10, on the N64 with the good old Killer Instinct Gold, which we'll definitely talk about some Killer Instinct stuff. Been into competitive gaming, never got into the MLG scene, but maybe one day. I'm getting old. I'm 22 years old, so we'll see what happens. But for now, I just like to talk about gaming, talk about media, anything. So hopefully everything goes well and we can get everything off the ground and see where it goes from there.
Now, this might sound like a stupid question. I honestly did not know you were 22. I thought you were like a year younger than me.
No, 22. December 18th, 1991.
That's weird. That is
Mark it.
1991.
Yeah.
Oh, you're turning 23 here, right?
I'll be turning 23 here in,
What was
what, 6 months? 7 months?
what was your first game?
My very first game, probably Excite Bike for the NES or Super Nintendo or whatever. Yeah. That was a long time ago, but that game was amazing, and I can't
Oh,
find it anywhere.
I remember
It's
going to my
bad.
friend's house and he had it and I didn't. Like I've never played it because I didn't have it and I thought it was an awesome game. Um,
Dude, Excite Bike was an amazing game. And I want to get an emulator just to play Excite Bike, but I just I feel like that'd be such a waste, but I know I'd play it for maybe, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes and then turn it off and be like, I don't know why I did this, but
you got your fill. Well,
exactly.
let me tell you quick about myself really quick and then we'll some. Uh, well, clearly we just established that I'm 25 and I'm a couple years older than him. And I've graduated college twice, 3 times if you want to count community college, but I don't really. I first started at North. Well, after community college, I started at Northern, and I did 2 years there and studied what was basically a pit of nothing, communications like film production and stuff, and that's kind of why I like doing this stuff. And actually, ironically, that's where me and Dylan first met. We played paintball all the time. So, and then I think the first time me and you actually started gaming. Well, the way that me and you started like knowing that each other gamed was I posted on Facebook, and then I was streaming, and I think you remember. I remember you coming by. You're like, "Oh, you played Heroes of New Earth," and it was just kind of funny. It was funny from there, but um, from there though, I graduated, and then I kind of took a couple months off, went back to school basically the same school, Lewis University, and studied air traffic. Now I'm graduated and waiting to get a job. So hopefully this can kind of keep me busy until then. But and I actually just turned 25 a couple like, week ago or 2 weeks.
Yes, you did.
But let's
A
just
quick
jump.
question
Yeah.
before you get into questions.
Oh yeah, forget.
Is Heroes of New Earth still, are they still releasing Heroes or did they
Yeah.
kind of like die
Yeah.
out? So
Oh
they're still going?
yeah, I still get emails all the time because I, you know, when you make an account, they'll send you emails about new skins and new, you know, heroes and stuff coming out. Yeah, that game is very much alive still. It's just,
Wow.
yeah. But actually, let me answer this question though, because I know I asked you, and um, my first, you know, I kind of left that part out. Was the way I started gaming was my first game I played was Smart Ball on Super Nintendo. I don't know if you remember that game. Game was
No,
awesome.
but just anything Super Nintendo, man.
Yeah.
Those were the days. Those were the
And Link
days.
to the Past, I remember my brother never let me play, or he never let me have a save account. Like I could play, but he'd like watch me, and then he wouldn't let me actually save it. And then the funny thing was, I remember playing Earthbound, and he was like protective of that game, and and I remember playing Earthbound, and he was like, oh, you know, make sure you save the game with me there. And I remember I played it one day and he wasn't there. And I got stuck on a tree, and the tree, and I could, it wouldn't, like the game bugged, and it was still playing, but I couldn't pause and save and leave. So I
Oh
had to
God.
press the power button. I was freaking out.
Oh God.
So that was a fun time. And
That
but
reminds me, like playing, sharing systems with your siblings. It reminds me of just like, do you remember the first PC that you had to like share with all of your siblings? And it was like, you
yeah,
know, our first game that, we played kind of, well, me and my brother, my sister never really played. Um, but we would play StarCraft, and he got me into StarCraft originally. And like he would always be playing, and I always wanted to play. And whenever I would play, I'd get so mad because I was so bad at the game, and I would just get off like right away. And so like he would have way more time to play than I would. And I would always get so upset. And I was like, it's not fair that he plays more than I do, but it's my own fault because I keep leaving because I don't like losing, and it was just like a constant cycle of like, oh, why are you so good? And it was always a problem. But I remember just sharing PCs, and now like I feel like every kid anymore, once they hit like grade school, all of a sudden has their own laptop or PC, and they
exactly.
don't have to go through those struggles of sharing the PC and the AOL dial-up internet, man. Like, they don't have those struggles, man. They don't
See,
have that.
the thing is that that I was that I find that I kind of like looking back on it that I kind of liked. Me, my brother, and my sister all shared Nintendo 64, PlayStation 2, Super Nintendo, all the systems. But when it came to PC, we shared a computer, but not like I was the only one that played games like StarCraft and Diablo 2.
Hmm.
So I never really had to like go through, you know, if they, you know, back when those games, you know, in the early or the late '90s, early 2000, um, PC gaming, or I mean, like PC using like a computer for the internet really wasn't as big as it was today. You couldn't just sit on Facebook all day and like I believe the only thing my brother would do on there was go on Morpheus or LimeWire to download music and make
Yeah.
CDs. So when nobody was
Oh
on it, like
God.
I didn't have to worry about anybody coming in and wanting to use the computer. I dominated the computer the entire time, which you know actually leads into a story that I'm not going to tell today, but I will write it down about the Rolls Royce that I bought while playing Diablo 2. So, um,
The
yes,
Rolls Royce you bought while playing Diablo
yeah,
2.
that's another day.
Wow.
It's because it's a long, it's like a lengthy story, but um, yeah, no. So I mean, you know, we kind of went through the same thing, except I didn't really have to compete with the computer. But
Mm.
do you have anything to say before we move on to our first topic?
I do, because what's funny is I was completely opposite. Like when I was younger, I mean, I played games, but I was never like super involved with games. And rather, my brother played them a lot. I played a lot of sports when I was younger. I was always outside. My brother was always like the kid that was just like up way late, has the lights off, but still gaming. And like I was never like that. And I would always play games with him. And like, when I first played Killer Instinct, when I first played GoldenEye, when I played these games where it was actually like a PvP style where, you're going after another player, we he would always just destroy me. And like I think like that kind of made me like not want to play that many games. It's just because like when you have an older brother that plays games, and that's kind of like where you start to follow in the footsteps of he was smart and good at games, and it was like that's what I want to be. I want to be good at games. I want to be smart, and you know you start to follow into these steps, and then all of a sudden when like they beat you at a game, it's kind of like, well, I don't really want to do this because I can't even keep up, and I would never recognize like the age difference. Like I think we're 6 years apart, so like we never went to like high school together. We were never in the same schools together, but and obviously he was more mature, and he's obviously going to be a step ahead of me until I'm at that age, maybe like 14 or 15. That I can actually comprehend gaming. I mean, if you look at professional gamers now, I mean, these kids are 16 years old, hardly, and they would be younger, but they don't allow, such young ages. Just one example is in the LCS for League, there's like an age limit that you have to be to get in, and some teams can't bring their players in because they're too young. They're like, there's like a junior in high school still, and it's like he's just trying to get through, high school while trying to professionally game. I mean, there's so much to juggle there. And for me, like I never had that. And it's just, I was always competing to get, on the computer to play and whatever. And I was never like super involved until Brood War came out. And then I really got into StarCraft, and I would play with some kid that would always have internet problems. And that
I
was
think
the only
everybody
kid
had
I've ever.
internet problems back then when everyone was on dial-up. Like, do you remember playing StarCraft and Diablo on dial-up? Like, I
Yeah.
remember I was like, I would go down in my basement and I would log in AOL, just minimize it, and then click the Diablo or StarCraft, like, because that's what you had to do, and it was just funny. It wasn't like now where you turn your computer on, and you're already connected to the internet.
Yeah,
It's amazing how far that's come.
yeah,
I
seriously.
don't know. But let's go into the first topic. And I know, and you kind of just touched on it. Well, you started it, but let's start with gaming as a sport. As a sport, professional gaming, and like how you think it's really come, um, in the past 10 years. Because like, you read a lot, or you see a lot of videos and you read a lot about it, about how back then on PC gaming and tournaments, and like if you watch the Dota 2 documentary that just came out, and they refer to it a little bit about like LAN centers, and some of the people say, we played for a case of beer, or like a couple bottles of beer, or anything like
Yeah.
that. But now everybody plays at home. You don't have to even go to a LAN center. You don't have to leave your house just to practice with your team. So like, what do you think? Do you think that's like affected it, or do you think it's a lot better now, or compared to before? What are your thoughts?
What I've seen is gaming has grown in two ways, and it's super positive because when you're growing as a sport, if we want to call it a sport, like I said, I've discussed this with you before. I back the idea that gaming is a sport because I believe you put in the time, you put in practice. You have to come up with a team. You need to come up with a strategy for a lot of these games. It's very hard to go into any game. I mean, if you look at anything like Dota or League for a MOBA, or Counter Strike, or Call of Duty, any of these games that you go into without a strategy, you're never going to win. Even if you're the best players playing, obviously you're going to play other really good players. You can't go into a game without a strategy. So you need to have some background in coming up with ideas, and you have to spend a lot of time not just playing the game, but coming up with ideas and working as a team outside of the game. So there is a lot of that aspect. But I think the problem is the more that we go into professional gaming and the scene of professional gaming, we're dragging the casual players that feel like myself. I'm kind of a casual player, but I'm a good casual player at a lot of the games I play, but I wouldn't consider myself professional. But there's a lot of people that are like me that feel like they should be professional, and because there's a thing such as professional gaming, they become very toxic to the community because they think they're better than what they are because there's that option. So all of a sudden, like, if there was no professional gaming, if you couldn't get paid to play video games or anything like that, all of a sudden I think these players that are just really good wouldn't be as toxic. I don't think the community, you always hear about all these communities being really terrible and bring people down and everything like that. But I think that's because there's a professional gaming scene. I think that's because players want to get into that, but
Hmm.
maybe they aren't to that level yet, or they can't reach that level, at their moment. So what happens is they get really toxic, they get really negative, and they may be good players or they may be bad players. It doesn't matter. But all of a sudden, there's this professional scene, and they think that they're better than so many people because of that. And I think that's the two paths that we're taking. Even though it's happening at the same time, I think there's a really positive aspect. Like I said, I mean, I do think it's a sport. I think it's great that there's money being involved, that there's sponsors, that people are actually recognizing gaming than more than just this nerdy habit that kids have. It's becoming a lot better of a scene. But I also think there's a negative side where these kids are becoming very toxic. A lot of these kids, I think toxicity in games can lead to outside
Mm.
negativity, and that's something I think that is happening because of the professional gaming, and I think it's huge. I don't really know a solution for it at the time, but I do see that being a problem. I think it's a good thing and a bad thing all at the same time, and I don't know where to put the boundary for it.
See, and this is kind of a random thought, but it just popped in my head. And me and you both played paintball. Do you remember
Yeah.
how big, or how a lot of players in paintball, we always wish that it would become a more recognized sport, and people would understand, like the things we would do to play the sport. And it's amazing to see how gaming and paintball, who are probably at the same level like 10 years ago, gaming has just shot past paintball. Like paintball, yeah,
Oh yeah.
it's very recognized, and they're getting bigger. They're getting like televised and all that, and but it's just crazy how big is I'm sorry, I'm sorry my words, but how big gaming has got, and I think one of the big things is, and what we're on right now is Twitch TV. It's basically given a lot of people an avenue, as well as YouTube, but and soon to be hopefully a partnership. But um, Twitch has given a lot of people an opportunity not just to be a professional gamer, but like to gain recognition and entertain people. There's so many people on Twitch that consider themselves professional gamers just because of the fact that they've successfully made it on Twitch. But
That's true.
it's just like it's crazy to see how many people, like young, old, teenagers, whatever you want, whatever age, a lot of people, all these
Hmm.
people are managing to make something of themselves, get sponsorships, get endorsements, anything like that. It's like you got kids my age making $10,000 a month or whatever it might be. And it's like, meanwhile, I'm going to school spending $20,000 a semester or a year. These kids, and I'm like sitting there wondering, like, how can I do this? I try streaming, and that's why we started this website, is to try to make something of ourselves. So it's crazy how it's become, um, you know,
Yeah.
and it's
And
difficult too. So
the one thing too is like I think if you look at the picture, I don't know if you know who Phantom Lord is. He's a streamer that streams League of Legends, and he labels himself as an entertainer. And I think there is a big difference between an entertainer on Twitch TV and a professional gamer. And I think that's kind of where that boundary gets overstepped by kind of both of the parties. I think sometimes professional gamers think that they're entertainers, and then the entertainers think that they're professional gamers. And a professional gamer typically can be an entertainer just because so many people watch them, and they just find them entertaining in general. But if you go to Phantom Lord and you watch a stream, I mean, it's entertaining, it's funny. You're entertained when you watch it, and not just necessarily for his gameplay, but just for who he is, how he acts. So I think that's the big difference, um, as far as that goes. But I do agree that it's like, but at what points do these kids that are 12, 13, 14 years old, maybe streamers or whatever they are, these high school kids that are making all this money. I mean, is that a realistic thing? Does that set them up maybe for failure later on in life when maybe, their gaming is kind of fizzled out? And, what boggles my mind is it's like, okay, so take maybe a 16-year-old streamer right now. Maybe he's not a professional, and maybe he's just streaming, and that's what he wants to do. 10 years from now, he's going to be 26. Is he still going to be streaming? Is he still going to be trying to make his money from, streaming and playing games? What about 20 years from now? He's 36 at this point, 30 years, 46, and so on. So it's like, at, at what point are you like, okay, well, you need a job, you need a degree, you need to do something else? And I know a lot of, professional gamers maybe go and work for, people like HyperX or, these like gaming companies that you kind of see all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't think they can take all of these streamers in. I mean, at what point is there the line? And that's where, I'm baffled. I want to see what happens in the future to all of these popular streamers, as they kind of fizzle away. Is it, do they try and stream for 20 years till they're like 30s and, and see what happens? Where do they get their money from at that point? And that's just where I'm like, kind of going to be shocked to see how the future holds out for these people on Twitch and YouTube and such.
Well, here's like kind of on that note. I don't know if you're familiar with Bravo. He was a coach of Triggers Down for Halo. Familiar with them by any chance?
No, I didn't really follow much of the Halo scene, but
well,
I mean,
I had the privilege basically, and I told you this, any of the listeners. My best friend, his little brother, rose pretty quickly in the pro Halo scene. He became pro, the follower of the, pro Halo. He was Tots. He played on Status Quo, and so I had the privilege of meeting a lot of them people because there's a documentary out there that Bravo made himself about the gaming house, the LAN network. Go check it out. But
sure.
So, but like I said, I had the privilege of meeting a lot of the Halo pros. But one of them, Bravo, he was the coach at Triggers Down. Works at 343 right now, or Bungie. I don't know. One of the studios. I can't remember if which one he currently works at, but one of those two he works there. Basically, because he marketed himself through coaching Triggers Down, and the way that links with Twitch is, I think, like, if people do it correctly, and like take YouTube people for example, take Life According to Jimmy. He simply just made videos, of him, and then what do you know? He's in movies. He was in Grown Ups 2, and I think he was in a couple other things too. So
that's true.
So like, yeah, they're streaming and they're they make money doing sponsors or ads or whatever it is, but yeah, it might not be all of them, but the ones that really stick out might actually end up doing it. And like, even one of the guys that I used to follow is Tim the Tap Man. He's very entertaining to watch too. He might actually end up getting, so I don't know. I can't really like pinpoint it, but he's an entertaining streamer. He plays competitively too, but he's very entertaining to watch. So I think that, like, on that note, that kind of like answers your question. Some of them might be weeded out, like the ones that might not see a long-term thing, a future in it, but some of them actually might put the effort in, try to market themselves through Twitch to maybe like make something out of it. So
I mean, and that makes sense. I guess it's just, I want to see what happens to the kids that don't. Maybe they hit 24, 25 years old and don't have this opportunity to work for a 343 or a Bungie or, these big companies. And all of a sudden it's like, where do they end up? Do they end up working at a McDonald's or a Burger King for the rest of their life? Or do they go to college? It's just, that's where I get confused. It's like, they're going to have to grow up sometime. And I don't wish anything bad upon these kids or anything like that. I would never do that. But it's just, I don't know how far you can go. And it's like, with such early success, I feel like sometimes that sets you up for failure almost. It's just, I feel like, because it's almost like peaking really early as like a sports player. It's like, oh, well, you're really good when you first get into the MLB or the NBA or whatever, and then all of a sudden it's like you don't see much action after your first few years, and that happens a lot. So all of a sudden these kids that maybe are, like I said, maybe 12, 13, 14, however old they are, it doesn't matter, but young enough to still be in high school and not old enough to be into college and make these decisions. decide to go with the streaming life, or maybe a lot of people go into like LCS, like League of Legends players, and these teams that are at the bottom get bumped out, and like all of a sudden they're not in the LCS anymore, they're not secured that spot. Like, do you have the risk and the availability to not go to college, to not try and get a professional job, and to try and bank your life on something like that? It's such a crazy thing to think about, and I'm sure we could talk about it forever. It's just I don't know where it's gonna go, and
Yeah,
I don't know.
sorry to cut you off, but I understand that too, and I don't really talk to them about it, but I ask myself that question about a lot of those um, because Halo, as you know, it's done. Like till the next one comes out, they're really not doing much for it in the competitive scene. A lot of those Halo players had to give up on it and either move to Call of Duty or move to something else. And it's like if they move to League of Legends, they're already competing with all these people who have been playing League of Legends or Dota or whatever it is, StarCraft before. Like while they were all playing Halo, they were all playing like the StarCraft and Dota and League players were all at. They were already
Yeah.
honing their skills in that. So it was like once Halo stopped, they had a transition. So it's like I ask myself that same question. It's like what are these some of these doing? Were they going to school? Do they have a backup plan? Because like you said, it's not gonna last forever. Um, and I don't really know what a lot of them are doing in terms of that. So yeah, I mean it's interesting. It's you don't really want to bet your whole life on it. But I mean like if you actually referring back to Halo one more time, I remember. Did you ever see that old Walshy documentary?
No, but I'm definitely gonna have to check that out tonight at some
His
point.
mom like said the same thing. I don't know how long this is gonna last. Might as well like make the best of it, fight it out. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, and I think that's another big thing too, is like the parents' point of view. Watching the Dota International, I mean, the biggest thing that documentary alone showed me was the parents' side. A lot of these kids. I mean, if you look at, the Asian culture is very like against gaming, but often you see them doing the best, which is just it almost contradicts, you know what I mean? Like I remember, I can't think of his name, but just the one Asian guy that they were following
hi
around,
hi.
and yeah, and the mom and the family was just like they were not at all for what he was doing, and but if you look at everybody else, I mean, they were, the parents were like, you know what, just go and do it. Like maybe they weren't 100% for it, but they were like, look, it's what you want to do. We obviously can see like this is something that you love to do. So go and pursue it and run with it while you can. Whereas in the Asian culture, it's way different, but yet they're a lot better, at games than we are, as a whole. I'm not saying individually, I'm not naming every single game, but I'm saying if you look at the whole picture, they tend to win a lot more and a lot more consistently than a lot of, North American or European teams for the most part. I'm not going to go into that right now on that whole scene, but in a general statement, you would assume that most Asian cultures have very good, gaming, and that's just crazy to see like how their parents just are almost never for it. And you often hear how positive of a thing it is over in like, Korea or whatever. They're very for gaming. I mean, it's a huge thing over there. They even said they brought like StarCraft pros to soccer games or something to like hype up the players. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You would never do that here in North America ever. So it's like the whole culture is just different, and that's something that's like, when you just said that about whoever it was, Walshy or whatever from Halo, it's like, if his mom's supportive, like, hey, go and do it, just go and run with it. That's a whole different thing from like, from the Asian culture, and just from what I've seen. That's not saying
Yeah.
everybody, but I hear a lot of that happening. I mean, the same thing happened with Double Lift, from League of Legends. I think he got like kicked out of his house a few times, and finally ended up getting kicked out like permanently, his last time, and he ended up moving in with Travis. There's a huge story on that, but regardless, I mean, that's the same thing. He comes from an Asian culture, and his parents were just totally against it, and I don't know. It's just it's crazy to see, and that's just a good point that you made. Just the parents being involved with the kids, and it's like, I don't know how my parents would have reacted if I told them like, hey, I'm gonna go play, professional gaming for a while. Oh, how would they would have reacted? I don't know. I think they would have been for it. Um, But that's just, I mean, that's a whole other aspect that, a lot of times these kids forget about is like your parents kind of have to be on board with you doing what you want to do because, if you're still in high school, you can't just say, I'm dropping out of high school or I'm not doing this, I'm going to play video games for the rest of my life. It's
And
a big decision.
I think like, and let's actually like wrap this subject up really quick, just because we're running short, we're running close to the 30, and I want to kind of ask one question, but
Sure.
just on a final note on that, in terms of like the parenting, um, I think like a good method, and if anyone listens to this, and if you're younger and you want to pursue gaming and competitive gaming and my parents were never really supportive of it. Like they still kind of complain to me that I always play games, but hey, you know what? I'd rather be spending hours playing a video game, kind of training my brain to think situational thoughts. Like I mean, Counter Strike, Dota. Those games, believe it or not, are really they educate you. They educate you to think strategy and all this stuff like that. But it's like I think one thing that they want to see is like that would make it a lot easier is they want to see some sort of achievement. So like take it as kind of like, in my eyes, take it as an advice. Go achieve something and then show your parents like, listen, I went to this tournament and I won $500 playing a video game.
Definitely.
And then it's like, okay, go do it again. I went to this other tournament, I won $1,000. Like you see what competitive gaming is doing. I can actually earn money, and I think in the near future it's gonna be even bigger than what it is, and it's already huge right now. I mean, like,
Oh yeah.
so,
It's growing at crazy rates. That's a no-brainer.
and I know you wanted to talk about this on a different podcast, but just look at the international for Dota's prize pool, $8 million.
Well,
$8 million. That's like a fraction of what a movie star makes. I mean, that obviously that's not all going to one person, but like that's a lot of money for a video game tournament.
yeah.
That's a shit ton. And I'm gonna say shit, a shit ton of money just to play a video game. So let's just move on really quick. Like I know we're gonna end this really soon, but I just wanted to ask you, since E3 is going on right now, and this is just you don't have to really go too much into it because I know you might not. I myself don't really know too many details, but what kind of let's get this last question going. What games are you looking forward to? Or not just E3, but in the next since the new systems came out, there's not a ton on like Xbox One. I know we got Xbox One at the same exact time.
Yeah.
Like, what are you waiting for?
And I don't know when it's gonna come, and there hasn't been much talk of it in a long time, but I want to see if Blizzard comes up with this Titan project they were talking about. They said it was gonna be a new MMO, and I know we're talking about MMOs in the future, and we'll definitely attack that subject crazy at some point, but I think we need a new MMO, and they said they wanted to appeal to everybody, not just the Warcraft scene and everything like that. And I think that is really where, my heart's been for like 4 years, just like waiting to see what this Titan project is. They did say that it was supposed to be an MMO, so I've been looking forward to it. Unfortunately, they took a lot of their their team off of that and put them on Heroes of the Storm is the rumor that I've heard, and we could talk about that another time, but Heroes of the Storm was just not entertaining to me. I did play a little bit of the alpha, and it was okay. But I really want to see where that goes. And unfortunately, we can't talk about that because there's not a whole lot of information.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as a game that I'd be looking forward to, I know we talked about this, but I do want to play The Crew. That looks really good, but I'm actually really looking forward to Destiny. Just from the rumors I've heard and from what I've read a little bit, it looks a lot like Borderlands, but done by the people that made Halo. So
The
I
original
think,
Halo, to be exact.
yeah. So I mean,
Um,
that's going to be crazy. I think that's going to be awesome. If they can do like an advanced version of a Borderlands and make it into like a Halo game combined with Borderlands, I think that's just like an amazing concept, and we'll see where it comes. There's not much I can find on it at the moment. I did pre-order it a few months ago, so it's definitely gonna be played for quite some time, and I hope that it turns out, to be as big of a hype as they talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I would say overall of the games that I can personally talk about, I would say Destiny, because that is a for sure release. Titan's gone. Who knows what's gonna happen with Titan? But Destiny would definitely be my game. I hope they talk, quite a bit about that in the upcoming months before before I pick it up, and then we get some more trailers and stuff.
And really quickly, what do you think? Like so far in the last, you know, between the games you've bought for Xbox One and kind of the games on 360 leading up to the Xbox One, what do you think is like the most disappointing game to you released? That really was like a hyped game that everyone was getting hyped about, and I already know my answer. I wonder if you have the same answer as me, but yeah, I mean, like I wonder what you say about what what you think was really a big, not, I mean, yeah, just a big letdown of a game.
Um, and I have kind of two answers. One would be somewhat Titanfall. It wasn't a letdown for me. It wasn't like it just didn't bring up to the hype, and I feel that's just a lack of content in the game. And maybe that's because I did play Call of Duty and I don't really play it anymore, but the fact that they had so many options for guns and things like that, I don't need, the kill streaks. I don't need all these perks and things, but I do want a little bit more variation from guns. You're very limited. It's that feels a little down to me, and unfortunately, that was, and I hate to say it was a letdown because the game overall is great. It's an amazing, the gameplay is good. Overall, I would give it a very good rating. But for what I expected, it kind of brought me down a little bit. Um, but for, I would say a bigger letdown, like a more um, actual letdown, it would have been Diablo 3 on release. That would have been my big thing, and that was just, I don't know what you're gonna say, but as far as Diablo 3 goes, when it first came out, the game was average at best. They did some work on it, but it was almost like that idea where it's like if for the first time, if you eat a food product, say you eat a bagel for the first time and you absolutely hate it, you're not going to want to go back and eat a bagel again because of the first impression that you got. First impressions are huge, and granted, Diablo 2 is still, people's first impressions, or Diablo the original, like there's still the games that came before Diablo 3 that still can kind of give it its background and say, hey, look, it can get better. We can go back to where it used to be. But Diablo 3 on release for the longest time was a terrible game. And I'm sorry to offend anybody that thinks otherwise. But I will give them the fact that they redeemed themselves coming out with Reaper of Souls. I did think that was very good. Getting rid of the auction house was a huge thing, a positive step, and everything kind of went well. But even getting back into the game, I know we both kind of did, and we kind of faded out again. But I think that's just because of how much like I was already disappointed. So like even though I did appreciate it later on, it almost kind of just evened out the fact that it was so bad at the start. So like I never got to really appreciate the game for what it was, unfortunately. But those would kind of be my two. And like I said, Titanfall's not like a letdown. It just didn't live up to my hype.
Mm.
But Diablo 3, original, not the expansion, would have definitely been my letdown.
Yeah, and basically my answer was this: the same part of it was Titanfall, and like I said, or like you basically said, the gameplay was amazing, awesome gameplay, and on foot it played out like Call of Duty. Really, nothing was different there, but like the addition of the Titans is a great new, thing to gaming. So, but
Very much
the
so.
the only bad part was when they brought the bait out, they didn't add much left, new content, like you said,
Yeah.
upon the official release. There was nothing new. There was maybe one more gun, one more Titan. No, I actually think you got all the Titan. No, I don't know. There was really only two or three Titan chassis, maybe one or two more guns. So it's like I think they really slacked on that. They didn't really, and I know that an expansion just came out, and I was planning on getting it early on and said I was going to expansions, but at this point, I mean, I don't really care. I haven't really played that game in a while. Um, I have no desire to really play it. I thought we were gonna play it. Remember we were joking around. We're we're going MLG, and I don't really have
Oh
any
yeah.
desire to play that. That
Well,
and the reason when me and you played game battles. Oh my
oh,
god,
jeez.
people play that. It's not meant for 2v2 game. Let
Dude,
anybody know. But
I'd rather watch paint dry than to play that game in 2v2, man.
that's
I
basically
really
what they
would.
were doing. They would kill us once and then would go watch the paint dry on the walls.
Yes, they would.
Um, let's just wrap this up though really quick and I'll just give my quick answer. Games I'm waiting for is 3 games.
Hmm.
One is The Crew. Two
Yes.
is, and I told you this before, Mortal Kombat 10 really surprised me. I really cared too much for Mortal Kombat games. Mortal Kombat 10 trailer. But I think the big one here that's really exciting, Star Wars Battlefront 3. Did you play the original 2?
I don't believe I did. Was the original on N64?
No, no, no. They were both on.
Okay.
I think they were on PlayStation 2 and Xbox.
Okay,
But
then no, I
that
haven't
that
played
was
enough.
like one of the. I'm not gonna say one of the first because I don't really know, but it was an early online multiplayer game like that by Dice, or I don't know if they were called Dice at the time, but it was basically the same company that made Battlefield. But the thing I'm
Okay.
excited to see is that game was made Battlefield or Battlefront 1 and 2 were made back on PlayStation 2 and Xbox.
Hmm.
It's gonna be crazy, 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 crazy to see what they're gonna do. Like to see that long of a gap. It's kind of like Diablo 2 and 3. There was such a huge year gap
Oh
between the
yeah.
second and the third. Like see what the things that they're gonna do to bring this game like into this generation, I guess.
Hmm.
So it's gonna be crazy. But on
Quick note though, I would totally love to see a good Transformers game.
well,
Like a game that just absolutely blows
on that
their
note,
previous games away.
actually, you might want to check this out because, um, well, they made 2 really good games: War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron. 2 really, really, really good games.
But
And
they
the
never exploded, in my opinion. I feel like I want to see something that gets like
that's the thing. Like,
big.
amazing gameplay, multiplayer. Me and my one friend played it, and it honestly the best Transformers game you can imagine. But not a lot of people recognize or saw it. They didn't know, so therefore it died out really quickly. And then the second one came out, and it was really popular too. But same thing, not a lot of people. But there's a game called Transformers Universe, and you go to their website, and I think it's still in beta right now, but it's an MMO. It's actually I haven't checked it out, but and then I know it's gonna be hard to compete with World of Warcraft and a lot of these other MMOs. But if they do it right, it could be something fun to play for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like a Transformers MMO.
Well,
So, but
let's see where that goes.
yeah, let's wrap it up though. You know, we went a little bit over. We're at 43 minutes, but um, yeah, like I said in the beginning, guys. Anyone who's listening, this is John and Dillon from Gamers Effect. This is Cause and Effect. We're going to be coming out with 1 or 2 podcasts a week. We're going to try to keep it consistent, and we're going to talk about new and current events in gaming, movies, whatever it is, really. Most of the time, it'll be an hour, maybe even longer. If we go off on, we're not going to cut it short by any means, cut any corners. So, if you want, the links are above, right over, right there. Right there. If you're watching the Twitch, you'll see where I'm pointing, and right there. Gamers Effect or Twitter at Gamers Effect, YouTube.com/Gamers Effect, Facebook group Gamers Effect, Gamers Space Effect. I will put that in any description for the podcast itself. If you want to follow myself or Dylan on Facebook or Facebook and Twitter, I'm at Don Colano. It's that as well, and then Dillon Finland, and yeah, we're gonna post some information about what our consistent schedule will be in terms. Right now, today is our just kind of our trial run. So, and last but not least, if you want to send us any mail, or not mail, I ain't sending you my address. But if you want to send, email us any questions or anything in terms of like content you want us to talk about, anything you want us to talk about, or any questions, it is just gamerseffect@gmail.com. So we hope to hear from you. And Dylan, you want to say anything on the way out?
Drive safe.
Drive safe. Make sure when you're driving, you're not listening or watching Twitch at least.
Yeah, unless you get the new Twitch mobile, right?
Yes,
audio only.
You can do audio only, which is what I will be listening to at work. But on that note, everybody, I bid you adieu. All right, and have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Adios.